And welcome back to Blue Shirts Buzz, where we talk everything New York Rangers. I'm your host, Matt Piscazzi, with my co-host, John Horton. Definitely check out our Twitter at BlueBuzz26, and let's hop right into today's episode. Rolling into the new year here, we got a week of 2025 hockey and some up and down stuff from the Rangers, some less than impressive stuff. What's new this season has been less than impressive. But before we roll into our first-time scorer and all of that good stuff for you guys, how you doing, John?
Not too bad. As long as it's not sports related, I am doing not too bad. Luckily, thank you for asking. Yeah, Rangers are 7th in the Metro, below 500. We have played 40 games. We're pretty much at that halfway mark of the season. They have 18 wins, 20 losses, and 2 overtime losses for a total 38 points. We are at least better than the Islanders. So that's the point of the
It could
season
be
we're at.
worse, right?
Yeah, we're at the point in the season where it's like, well, at least we're not this. Yeah, team's very broken. Team's underperforming. Changes have to be made. We can only sit and pray and hope that Chris Drury does what he can do best, I guess, in the past, and maybe we'll see what Peter Laviolette can do, or whoever the coach may be, because this episode is about Peter Laviolette, and everything else that is going on. So I guess we will move into our results from our first time score first, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah. So we did not predict the Stars game. But let's see. In the Bruins game, you had Trocheck scoring first. I had Lafreniere scoring first, and Mika scored first. Surprisingly enough, he actually decided to show up for a couple games here recently. And we won that game 2-1, which is nice. In the 7-4 loss to the Caps, which just sheesh. You had Hero scoring first. I had Cooley scoring first, and the first scorer was Kreider, unassisted. So yeah, neither of us hit that one. And then in the 6-2 win to the Hawks, you had Foxy scoring first. I had Panarin scoring first. It was Brodzinski, followed by Borgen. Nobody was calling that. That was not on anybody's bingo card, so neither of us hit either of those as well. And then in the the 5-4 loss to the Stars last night. Oh, we were literally watching that too. I can't remember who scored. Was it Laugh scored first?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, not that we had even predicted that, but one of us might have had him down there, or Tro. I don't know. Him and Tro both scored in the first period. We ended up losing that game 5-4. So yeah, we are still tied 2-2 in the first time scorer bracket. This is
We're halfway through the season, so
well, we started doing this. We only started doing it like a couple months ago.
True. I like how hard this is, and it makes whoever wins, it'll make it more sweet.
It is pretty sweet. Yeah. I mean, it is difficult. Like, because I've said this before, if it was like anytime score, like if you were just placing like an anytime score bet or something, like that's a lot easier to hit, especially in hockey. The first time score, I think, makes it a lot more exciting. So,
oh, absolutely. And maybe
like
someday if we could get a lot more communication on our Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, with some followers, maybe we could get them in on it, and then maybe have some prizes. I don't know.
it'd be fun.
I'm being hopeful.
Something,
That'd be fun.
something to think about in the future there. But yeah, I mean, neither of us had really hit on the first time score. I mean, the Rangers haven't been hitting anything at all these days. A couple wins here to start the year, which was kind of a nice change of pace. We saw Mika been playing a little bit better, and Laugh actually last night finally got a couple points. Like, we're seeing signs from this team of hopefulness, but it's like, does it really amount to much of anything? I mean, you look at where we are right now, and well, I mean, just gonna pull up the wildcard picture and tell you exactly where we are. It's bad. I mean, we're 4 points. It's okay. It's crazy to say this though. We are only 4 points out of a wild card, but there are 9 points that separate the Lightning from the Sabres in the East. The Lightning, of course, being the top wild card spot, Sabres being the worst team in the East. So when you talk about that, 9 points is not a lot. And where we are, we're at 38 points. Blue Jackets have the second wild card right now, 42 points. Lightning have it with 44 points. So we're 4 points from a wild card spot, 6 points from the top wild card spot. Not that that means much of anything. I'm not really saying that I think we're going to make it or anything like that or whatever, all that kind of stuff. It's just crazy how tight the East is. And also just the fact that, like, we're second to last in the Metro. We're 38 points.
Yeah, and we're 26th in the league. Yeah,
which is just nuts. This team has been shambolic this year, man. And something that came out recently that kind of highlighted just the media swirl and everything that's going on around this team, is this talk about trading with Vancouver. So for those of you that hadn't heard any of this, there was apparently an offer, and I've heard it both ways. I believe it was offered from us to the Canucks, but I've also heard it both ways. So who really knows? This is one of those things where like this also could just be one of those sensationalized things people are just like throwing out to the media. But apparently, there was a trade offer on the table, a 1-for-1 deal, Mika for JT Miller, that supposedly the Canucks said no to. We had offered them, but again, like there's kind of this weird, mysterious
Mhm.
energy around this trade. It's like, why was this never brought up? Why did nobody ever mention this? Well, it's just coming up now. When was the offer? Like, it's just one of those mysterious kind of things that I don't really know that I wholeheartedly believe. But with that being said, just another like news article piece that we don't really need about this team right now that's just going to kill the morale of people in the locker room. Like, it's just, can we go like 2 or 3 days without hearing some funky rumor or some like bad story from the locker room about this team? Like,
Yeah.
it's like we can't, like, we literally can't. Not that I like really want Miller or anything like that. Like, I don't even think that that would be the best deal for us, but it's just, there's always something with this team, right? Like, that's just where we are right now, and it's very unfortunate.
Yeah, no, it is. And for anyone who doesn't know, JT Miller was a draft pick by the New York Rangers. He was here first, and as I'm sure you have seen him in the headlines with drama, he is a very drama-driven person. When he was on the Rangers, there was a lot of reports of him being a problem in the locker room. There's videos of him fighting with Henrik Lundqvist on the ice, which is ridiculous. There was reports that when Marty St. Louis was on the team, who was like famously a nice guy and like just such a champion, and like even he was like, I don't want this guy here. I don't
Yeah.
like JT Miller. His last couple years in Vancouver have been extraordinary production wise. I think that's mainly just because of the system he's in, and he's playing with Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson, like all these other people around him. I don't think it's him driving it himself, even though he has shown some flashes here and there. But he's in his early 30s. I don't want him to come back to a team that he was removed from because he's a problem, and he's still having problems in his new place. Like
Yeah.
he's just a hothead. I
I don't
don't
know if
want
the
him.
talent
We
makes
don't
up
need
for
him.
it, is where it's like,
That too, and apparently Vancouver would have went for the trade if we threw Braden Schneider on there as well, per The Athletic, which thank God Chris Drury said no. Um, but also Mika would have to waive his excuse me, no move clause, and who knows if he would do that. But yeah, big issues driving this team right now. Some key injuries. Chris Kreider, unfortunately, he's having some lingering back problems, which can explain why his production has been also so bad.
mm,
Igor Shesterkin, of course, something with him all the time these last 2 seasons,
yeah.
whatever it may be. Filipino, unfortunately, again from last night's game, he left with a upper body injury, whatever the hell that means. Hopefully, not concussion related. We already kind of figured Hito would never play a full season again. It's just kind of impossible with who he is, unfortunately, and
It just sucks though, because
his
every time it
fragility.
looks like he's like picking it up, because like he scored a couple goals last game,
Hmm.
whatever, like a few points here or there, like he's really been flying around the ice, been giving us good minutes, and then it's like, well, he's hurt again.
Yeah,
And this always happens, and then it's like he comes back and he either has a hard time getting back in the flow, he isn't able to like kind of break the ice. Like, it just,
yeah,
I mean, who really knows? Because obviously we have to wait and see like what the injury is when he comes back and everything like that. But this happens to him so frequently. It's just really upsetting, his career trajectory, when you consider like where he could go versus where he's going to likely end up in terms
yeah.
of that ceiling. But
A-
yeah,
and the thing is too, like which we'll get into with Laviolette. Um, the Rangers' defense is very undisciplined. It's very
mm,
disjointed. A lot of mental mistakes. A lot of just a lack of hustle. Um, Ryan Lindgren needs to go, unfortunately. Like, we just need to try and get something for him. He's just like a rock on skates out there. Um, I think Zach Jones's frustration of being scratched time and time again is warranted at this point. I think he should play
yep.
over Heinen because he's our draft pick, but the Rangers said the Rangers gave him permission to talk to other teams for potential trades. So to me, that means Peter Laviolette, the coaching staff, and Chris Drury are all in agreement that they don't really care about Zach Jones. They don't really want him here because if they did, they'd say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, okay, well,
Mm,
let's see how you can play." Then again, I don't think Zach Jones is a world breaker. I don't think he's the best defenseman we have out there. But with the state of the team and how bad the defense is, I think it's fair if you get him out there
Yeah,
and
especially like we just got Vakanainen.
yeah,
You scratch him if you it doesn't matter. We just got him. He was like just a piece in here that okay,
to
we
get
got
rid
rid
of
of
Trouba.
Truba.
Yeah.
Woohoo, big whoop. He's played okay. It's not like he's done anything that's like, yeah, he's showing us promise or anything like that. Like I get he was a first round pick that never really maybe got the opportunity. He got kind of overshadowed by some other guys in Anaheim. And it's like, okay, well, we don't need to take a flyer out on this guy because we know that we have Jones in the ranks who's played well for us before too. Like this is where, and I guess this is our segue. This will be a little bit of a segue like into the Laviolette conversation, but this is where some of his decision making and some of the scratches versus who's playing, who's not playing, who's getting scratched, who's not getting scratched. Like that's where my biggest issue has been with Lav recently because I do want to, before we have our whole conversation about Lav, say that like I have a hard time blaming him too much for what's going on. Like I really do. And I know it sounds kind of funny because, like, you look at how bad this team has been performing. Like, obviously, you have to blame the head coach, you have to blame management, you have to blame the players. Like, you can assign blame, I think, to all three of those different levels in the organization. But for me, it's mostly the players giving up on Laviolette. So I do have a hard time, like, really blaming him and his system. But it also has gotten to a certain point where we saw how bad this team has been recently, and then like the decisions he's made to try and like make up for it. And I don't really necessarily agree with all of those decisions. And I think before we get into uh, kind of our second half of the episode here, our whole conversation about Laviolette. If you do want to give us a lovely word from our wonderful sponsors.
I was just going to say before I get into my rant a little bit, yeah, I would love to. For today's DraftKings playoffs, we're talking about playoffs. You bet we are. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is key to winning the playoffs, and you can score big by betting on teams, by betting on them at DraftKings, not teams. The number one place to bet touchdowns. If you're ready to place your first bet, try betting on something simple like a player to score 6. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's by picking up your phone, downloading the DraftKings Sportsbook app, and using code THPN. That's code THPN. For new customers, to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. All right. So, yes. Yes, thank you to our sponsors, and no thank you to the New York Rangers. So, yeah, I would like to do a whole episode too on Keandre Miller because he's another topic of conversation. He kind of sold the game a little
Mhm.
bit against the Stars last night. He's been miserable to watch at times, and I'm so happy that Jacob Trouba is no longer here. I don't know if you saw, which is funny. People are comparing it like Miller has this boneheaded play that loses us the lead, and then we go to overtime and lose, and
Mm.
then in Anaheim. Trouba, the Anaheim versus Calgary, Trouba had the puck behind his goalie. I don't know what thought process this was, but he shot the puck into the boards. I think he tried to clear it, but it was a horrible attempt. He shot the puck into the boards and it ricocheted off the board into the air in this perfect arc right behind John Gibson, and Jonathan Huberdeau just went boop and knocked it in.
Huh.
So he basically scored an own goal, kind of like
Classic.
he basically lobbed it to Huberdeau, and I was like, "Wow!" So thank God. I actually
They
retweeted
both
it.
on
I
the
was like,
same night too. It's kind of funny.
"Yeah," I retweeted it. I was like, "My captain, my captain."
Oh my captain.
So yeah, so thank God. But yeah, so Peter Laviolette, it like you were saying, it's a really sticky situation right now. As the New York Rangers coach, the last 2 years, he has a 73 wins, 43 losses, and 5 overtime losses record. Um, he's like the 8th or 7th. This word is weird, but like winningest coach of all time in the
Mhm.
NHL. He demands a lot of discipline. He demands a system. He isn't shy about benching people. He isn't shy about scratching people. He isn't shy
Yep.
about changing things up. He keeps it real. But, you know, it does mainly go to this core of players and just hockey players in general. It's very frustrating, but it's just the game. There's no way around it. But like, yeah, it does feel like they've given up on Laviolette's message. They've given up on his system. No matter how
Mhm.
many times he tells these millionaires to go out there and play a certain style, they just don't.
Yep.
Um, he's frustrated to the point where he's, I think overly scratching like Zach Jones. But also that's the other thing too. We don't have the full picture to some extent. Like maybe when I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here, maybe when Vakainen came in Drury was like, "Listen, I want you to play this guy. Like, I want to see what we got from him till the end of this season, or up until the trade deadline, so that maybe we can trade him again, like, and get something for. Like, who knows? Like, I'm just,
Mhm.
maybe they sat down and they're like, we have Zach Jones here, like maybe he'll play ball, and now he's not. So, and they said, okay, yeah, you can go talk to people, which is fair from a management to player standpoint, but also kind of shows they don't really care about him.
Yeah.
So it is difficult. And players have given up on him. This core has to be broken up and it has to be changed because we can't change the coach for the 17th time
Yep.
and have one good season and then up everything falls apart. It comes down to some of the players that want to go out there and play, their lack of forechecking, their lack of back checking, their lack of checking, their lack of
Yeah.
shooting, their lack of like their lack of everything and then some is just them as individuals and the lack of leadership in that room. I really It really disappoints me too on the defense side. Like, obviously I don't have cameras in the locker room. I don't have microphones, but Adam Fox is by far and large the best defenseman we have. But even he like looks like he's on autopilot at times. Like he doesn't seem to rally the other defensemen around him. Like he
Yep.
just kind of seems like checked out. And that's a little unacceptable to me because I always envisioned him like with his story of how he came to the Rangers and how much he loves the Rangers and how good he is. Like maybe he would be a captain someday, but
Yeah.
that's not captain behavior. He's not
Yeah.
he's not showing captain
He's
behavior.
you know what it is about this core? They don't get the other players going. Like, every
Yeah.
now and then you see a moment, especially from guys like Tro or like Panarin will show it every now and then, sometimes Kreider. Like, you see these moments where you see that fire and that energy, but it's never from everybody. It's always one or two players. And a lot of times it's even these bottom six guys like getting a fight or laying a big hit, and then they're like, all right, what are we doing? Like, let's get going here. And it's very frustrating. It's like they don't bounce off each other, the energy. It's not like they use each other to kind of get each other motivated and get each other energetic. It's like like I said, there's always that one or two or maybe three players that show you those moments of like that feisty kind of winning energy, that fire that you need to see from somebody who's making millions of dollars, somebody who's a bona fide winner and wants to keep winning, but it doesn't translate to other people on the team. And that's where like it kind of gets me in this whole conversation where I take a lot of this blame and I assign most of the blame to the players. But like I said, you do have to assign a little bit of the blame, I think, to management and coaching as well. Like, it's hard to look at where this team is and how far they've fallen from last year and not blame management and the coaches to some degree as well. I do think that, when you look at like when Lav came in last year, like when we got into running his system, that aggressive, that lefty pinching up in the zone, that 1-3-1, that kind of in your face pressure, aggressiveness, the defensive system we were running in general, it was very good. I mean, it worked for us, and we played some of the best defensive hockey we played in a long time. Obviously, won the President's Trophy. So his system worked. The players bought into it, and it worked. And whether it was all the system, all the players, a combination of bringing other guys in as well, like, yes, everybody, like at every level of the organization was functioning, which this year we're not seeing much of function from anybody in this organization. But I get to give him and his staff credit because it was a huge change in style compared to the way that they played to the year previously. Then you get to the beginning of this year and you saw kind of vestiges of it, but it's like we fell off the wagon so fast. I mean, like when we
Yeah.
started, we're like, oh, this looked good, we look good, whatever. We lost, one or two games here or there. And then even in the fashion that we were winning some of those games wasn't overly convincing. We were letting teams come back. We were kind of letting teams hang around. Like that we was like, even when we were winning, I should say, we were never overly convincing. Our system
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
not, it was very flawed. We weren't playing it the way we were playing it last year. And that's where it's really easy for me to point the finger at the players because especially at this point, like it comes down to the players. So like I said, I do have a hard time blaming Lav, and I really hope that as this core gets broken up and as things happen, that this doesn't become another one of those hockey situations where a coach is out of here in 2 years because that
Yeah.
happens way too frequently. And I think that him and his staff have the pieces that we need. They have the culture in place. It's just that the players haven't always responded. And so if we are going to shake up this core and retool this team, I hope that he could be there for at least a year of it to some kind of stabilizing factor. I mean, we don't need to change the coach, the assistant coaches, and the core all at the same time. I'm sorry. What about that? Sounds like that's not going to push us down, push our winning record another year or two down the line. Like it just, the more pieces that you change, the more things you shake up, the less bright it looks, moving forward. So I think, like I said, I think he's a great coach. I think he has a good history. I think his staff are really good. I think they've done a really good job of when the players have responded to their system, I should say, they've done a really good job. So I do hope that With all that being said, that Laviolette and his assistants are in there next year, regardless of what this team looks like. I don't want to see us get rid of another coach after 2 years just to watch him walk, because he's a very, very good coach. He's got a lot of good acumen, a lot of good energy about him, a lot of good qualities. And just because the players have now given up on, a third or fourth coach in a row through this core doesn't mean we need to get rid of another coach for these guys,
Yeah.
especially if we're going to be retooling these core. That's kind of where I'm at. Ultimately, again, I do think that he has to take some of the blame. And it really comes down to the scratches. That's where the blame is assigned for me. When you look at like how weird he kind of scratched Rempe here and then didn't scratch Rempe there, and he's scratching Jones to the point where Jones wants to request a trade. And it's like, you're scratching him for Vakanainen.
Yeah.
Really? That's
Yeah.
the move you want to force a trade for a homegrown talent, guy who we actually believe in might have a lot of potential, for a former first round pick who has shown lifeless energy in the Ducks to the point where he got outplayed by 3-4 other defensemen and got shipped in a trade where he was basically just so that we could trade players. I mean, really, that was us to get rid of Truba. We just got him because it made the cap space work a little easier. And that's a guy you're going to play over Jones. Like, that's where I look at Lav and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It just comes down to like some of those kind of game time decisions, who to scratch, who not to scratch, especially the fact that, and I know you've said this previously, like, what does scratching Mika do? But it's never even been a conversation. It's never
Yeah.
even been a thought from him. You know what I mean? And at that point, it's like, where is the responsibility for this play? And how does that line up with the organization, everything like that? But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I definitely would not be opposed to keeping Lav here. I'm curious if you're as on the, if you're still on the Lav train with me, or if you're thinking, if we're retooling these players and everything, we might as well get a new coach as well. Just curious what you're thinking over there.
I'm thinking I agree with 90% of what you said.
Mm,
Very spot on. I kind of look at it as an 80-20, like 80% on the players, 20% on Laviolette.
mm,
Um, I think, like, yeah, this core of players, especially the veterans, have shown like they'll quit on coaches, and then like the younger players kind of follow suit. Or, and you heard Zach Jones' comments again about a 32-year-old just coming and collecting a paycheck, which is crazy.
yeah.
Um, and I just think, you know, it's just tough as the coach, because it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. And you got to look at, like, if you're Peter Laviolette or any coach of the New York Rangers, you're in the top three biggest hockey market in the league. Your boss's boss, which is your boss, is James Dolan, who we all know sucks and is evil. That's easy to put out. He doesn't care about players. He doesn't care about culture. He
Mm,
doesn't care about anything other than winning and getting more people to fill the seats and buying $20 beers. That's what James Dolan cares about. And, you know, if scratching Zach Jones and keeping this other guy in can maybe squeak out a win here and there and make James Dolan happy, you're going to do it because it's your job and it's what you're getting paid. It sucks. And, to bring football into it slightly with, you as a Jets fan, me as a Giants fan, we both have like horrible, horrible owners of our teams. Horrible. Like, they do not understand football. They do not understand sports. All they understand is that money is green and that they own a team. So it's kind of the same thing with James Dolan. It sucks. Something we can't control. But that being said, um, it just sucks to have that pressure, and that's the problem that New York the New York Rangers have had in terms of development in general, is just because how large of a market it is. It's hard to be like, oh, sorry, fans, we need 5 years to develop our players and then get good.
mm,
Like a smaller market can do that because everyone's like, oh, this team sucks. And then, oh my God, wow, now they're good. They're amazing.
yeah.
Whereas like the Rangers, it's like, if you go 5 years sucking, like that's unacceptable. And owners of the team and people who have like stakeholders, they're not going to stand for it, and the things are going to change rapidly. And it sucks. It's not an excuse. It's just the reality of the situation. And Laviolette signed a 3-year deal. He's in year 2. I think he should write out the full contract so he
Mm,
can play all next year. I think I'm going to be really, really upset on this show in general, in life, if Chris Drury doesn't do everything in his power to shake up this core almost
yeah.
entirely. Like, he put the, I'm not falling for this. Here's the for sale sign. We need to change things. And the players responded with, well, I feel like I have no job security, so I'm going to stop playing well. You saw that from a
Yeah.
lot of the veterans.
Did not motivate anybody.
No, to not. It made them say, okay, the door's coming. And you know what? Like we were saying before, if that's your response, then we don't want you here, because
Mm,
that's just not Like again, like I just wish we could have had one of those. Like, you think if either of the T'Chuk brothers were on this team in this same scenario, they would be like, "Oh, all right, I'm just gonna not care," and
Yeah.
just then I like they're gonna say, "No, screw you. I'm gonna go score 5 goals, and I'm gonna show
100%.
you that I deserve to be here." And that's who we need. We need dogs on this team. We need people who are like a little crazy in the head. Like we need people who are like, "I'm going out to the win," not like, "Oh, I need a pat in the back because I missed wide and hit the boards, and I guess I'll skate back to the bench with my head down. What am I gonna do?" Like that's unacceptable as a player. And if you're Laviolette and you're sitting there like, what, there's nothing you could do. You're just like, okay, I've told this guy 17 times to stop doing that. He keeps doing it. He has a no move clause. What am I gonna do?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure he talks to Dre often. And he's like, my hands are tied. So, but what I do think has happened is what should happen is retool, let Laviolette go through his third year. He's in his
Mhm.
60s. Having this last year on his contract, I think he can put in his veteran coaching experience to a lot of young players. And then I think we need to do kind of like what the Oilers did, which I wish we could have kept him, but I forgot his name.
Oh,
Chris
Knobloch.
Knobloch.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we should get someone who's younger. I know he's like older too, but like younger in the sense of like can foster a relationship with our young players, like a John Cooper or like a Rob Brendamore. I mean, he's one in a million, so it's kind of tough. But
True.
like,
But I know what you mean. Like, you bring in a locker room
yeah,
guy who is not as, they're a different kind of presence in the locker room. Maybe the players can be a little bit more free, have a little bit more kind of energy in the locker room. It's less of, I don't want to say less serious, but it's just a different environment. I understand what
yeah,
you're saying. It's a culture change, which also would, I think, contribute. I like that idea because it would also contribute to the whole kind of retooling of our core as well. Like, and by then, hopefully, we had a year to kind of be made. But well, through like a transformative period like that, I think that's probably also a good time to get a new coach in to kind of put their system in place, and then, like you said, ride with some of those younger guys. I do like that idea there. Be interested to see what happens, how it actually plays out, but I like that idea a lot.
yeah, because it's like, I always think about some of those clips I've seen of the Hurricanes locker room, this and that. Like, if I'm a young hockey player and you know, hockey players are emotional, whether they admit it or not. They just are. They're emotional guys,
Mhm.
and not in a sense of like they need to be hyped up. They need to be driven. It's
Yeah.
just how hockey is. It's a brutal sport, and that's why we love it. And like you see those videos where Rob Brindamore walks in and he's like jacked out of his mind. Like he's ripped and he's a hockey legend. And like if I'm a young hockey player and I see how like jacked, in shape, like strong and
And the
just
energy he
like
brings. I
and the
mean, he's
energy he
like, yeah,
brings, it's
every
like if
single
I
minute.
yeah, like if I'm on the ice and I miss a shot wide, I know I'm looking at the bench and Rob's giving me a death stare, and like rightfully so, because I might think to myself, if he was in my shoes, he would have made that, or he would have like made that shot. Where I hate to bring like physicality into it. Like as a coach, it shouldn't matter if you're fat, skinny, or in shape. But like as hockey players, and why Rob Brindamore is so like successful, besides the fact that he's just an insanely talented hockey mind in general. I mean, he won a
Mhm.
Stanley Cup. He's got all these records, but like he gives that aura of like you're gonna follow me because I did it and look what I can
Yeah.
do. And I just think we need someone like that. Peter Laviolette knows hockey very well. I mean, he was the coach when Rob Brindamore won that Stanley Cup, so Rob Brindamore
Yeah.
probably knows how good he is. But I just think with like young players who are hot and cold, especially Lafreniere went on a 10-game ghost trip, and then all of a sudden he scores 2 goals last night and an assist
Yeah.
before. Like you just need someone who's not going to take that crap, and also have the relationship with management where like, hey, I've made my stance clear. This player is not listening to me.
Mhm.
We need to punish them in a way that they understand, like a scratch, a trade threat, where they're not going to turn into babies. Like, and that could be part of it too. Like Chris Drury probably saw the start of this year again. Like you were saying, even the games we were winning, we weren't really convincing people, and he was probably like, "I've had enough of this. Like, this is not changing." He probably went to Peter Laviolette and said, "Look, I'm gonna rock the boat here because these guys are
Yeah.
doing the exact same thing I've seen them do 3 years in a row." And I've talked to other Ranger fans as well. They make good points that I've heard from them. Like even when you see Mika, Panarin, Kreider, Fox, all of the core players at their best, we can't win the Stanley Cup. So even at that point, as you know, this is very heartbreaking, I know, but like at
Mhm.
their absolute best that we've seen them, we still lose. We still can't win, and we still can't go over the hump. Why run it back again? Why? Oh, maybe that's the definition of insanity: doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. It sucks, especially the way sports work and contracts and how long it's going to take. And it's just going to be a long winded thing. But yes, so I think overall, Laviolette should run out the rest of his contract. I would say 20% of the blame goes to him out of the 100% for what's happening right now.
Mhm.
And I pray for change. That's my total thoughts.
It's kinda where we're at, though. I mean, even with the couple, like, win against the Bruins, we actually look pretty good. 6-2 win against the Blackhawks is really not overly like, okay, it's the Blackhawks. I mean, that's better versus, the last time we played them when they beat us 2-1. So, like, yeah, there are signs like, oh, okay, maybe they're, like, putting it together, but it really doesn't amount to much of anything. And honestly, like, I hope and I mean, I hope that we can kind of commit one way or the other. I don't want to see us with this kind of yo-yo where we're going to win a game here, lose a couple games, win a couple games, lose a couple games, because all that gets us is just I mean, I don't want to sound like a tanker here, but like just kind of messes with our draft pick. Like
Yeah,
I would rather,
that's
and I
fair.
would also rather know how like what to expect. Like, are we committed to trying to turn this around, or are we winning just for the sake of like, oh, we just won this random game and then the next game we're going to go out there and have absolutely no drive and no effort? Like, if we're consistently going to start showing up every night and showing that energy and that drive and that passion, and we start winning games, I'm happy about that. That's what I want to see. That's what we want from this team, is that energy and that fire. It may not amount to anything at the end of the year. It may not even amount to a playoff berth, but at least that's what we need to see from these guys. You can look at that and say like, okay, next year, the year after, like there's something to hold on to. You can look at some of these players who are doing it night in and night out and say like, you are somebody that can be part of the future, part of the answer, right? But if it's this, and this is what we've seen from them all year and even recently, if it's this like one game we have the energy, the next game we don't, the next game we don't, the next game we have the energy, then it doesn't really mean much of anything, even if we get those wins, because what are we holding on to? We're holding on to a win from a very inconsistent team that can't show us on a nightly basis that they want to play and want to win. Like, so, okay, we just gave ourselves 2 more points that we're then going to end up falling back in the standings in a week anyway because we're going to lose 2 games. So it's at that point, I'm like, I'd be really, really frustrated with this team. I guess I'd rather, like, if we're going to lose, can we just lose? I don't know. I mean, I know it's a very like tanky mentality, and I don't mean to say like tank, 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 because I think there is still some energy to this team, and I don't want to see us just pack it in. But they've already kind of just packed it in. I mean, for the most part, they've already kind of just packed it in, so really wouldn't be that much of a change. But ultimately, I just want to see these guys fight hard and play like they want to be on the ice. Like whether or not that amounts to wins, losses, that's really what we need to see from these guys. We need to see energy, we need to see fight, we need to see drive, and we're not consistently seeing that. And I think a little bit of a segue into our first time scorer here, because whoever's
Yes.
scoring those first goals, they're going to have to show all that energy and drive, right? They're going to have to practically do it themselves with the way that this team is playing and the lack of chemistry and all the things that we've gone on about. But we are playing the Devils. We were recording this on the 8th. We played the Stars last night. We're playing the Devils tomorrow night. Who do you think is scoring first?
Panarin.
All right. I like it. And I'm going to go Cooley. Cooley hasn't done, he's been a little quiet recently.
Yeah. Well, I figured he's that kind of player. It's awesome, but
True.
he's
Like,
not like a
yeah, I
sustainable
mean,
offense.
he's not going to score 4 goals a game, but all
No.
right. We are playing the Knights this weekend. Who you got?
I'm gonna go with Riley Smith.
Ooh, Riley Smith.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take your Panarin pick on this one.
All right.
And then we play the Abs the beginning of next week.
Go laugh.
Okay. Okay. I was going to say that. This to me is going to be like one of those random deflection-y off a defenseman type goals. I'm going to take
Oh,
Schneider.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Taking Schneider on that one. But yeah, I mean, I think I would just love to see some fight from this team, like I said, just to kind of give my last closing thoughts here. I'd just love to see just signs of positivity is really what it's about, because like I was saying, win here, there, loss here, there, like where we are in the standings right now doesn't really amount to much unless we were going to go on a serious run in the second half of the year here. So at least give us things to like hold on to, give us moments of greatness, give us the signs of brightness, give us flashes of drive, motivation, hustle, all those things that we can look at and say, like, that's a part of the future. That's something that we need more of on this team. And at least then we could be a little bit more happy with all things considered where we're at and where we should be. But at least it would give us some things to kind of look forward to. But I don't know if you wanted to your kind of closing thoughts and start heading us out of this one.
Yeah, I think we can call this an episode. I agree with you totally. I want to see fight. I want to see drive. I want to see passion from mostly the younger players who have a future
Mm,
here. I want to see Kendra Miller wake up and do something other than play bad hockey. I want to see Lafreniere live up to his draft potential, please. I want to see Braden Schneider keep taking steps forward. I want to see Igor get healthy and earn his contract. I just want to see a lot. I'm kind of checked out on a lot of the veterans. It just it sucks. It's a sucky feeling. I've fallen in love with this team, but it's just the reality of it, and
mm,
it's better to rip the Band-Aid off. But yeah, so I think no half measures. I'm going to say that probably the end of every episode till the off season. No half measures, no band-aids. We need to just retool. We need to get our heads on straight. We need to get new leadership.
mm.
And I think we need to go win some games. I think that's, but I agree with you. Maybe not for the rest of the season because maybe we can luck into the first overall pick again in the draft lottery.
Could you
um,
imagine?
yeah, that'd be insane. But yeah, so I'm ready to call it episode.
Yeah, no, and very well put. Really not too much to add there. Just want to see signs of life from this team when it comes down to it. It's just something to get us exciting. This team has been incredibly disappointing. This year has been incredibly disappointing versus our expectations and where this team should realistically be and how they should be performing. So, a lot of negativity, a lot of disappointment. And so, if they could just give us just again signs of brightness, signs, just flashes of greatness, I guess I should say. Big play here, big play there, hustle, energy, those types of things to look forward to, things to get us excited amidst all of this negativity and this time where it's really hard to be excited about this team. But with all that being said, got some pretty hefty opponents coming up here, so I don't know how hopeful we could really be realistically playing the Devils, the Knights, and the Avs in the next 6 days.
Yeah.
That's a pretty tough schedule breakdown right there. So hopefully next episode we have some good stuff to talk about for you guys. If not, we hope you're here to listen anyway. We will be here providing all of our thoughts, analysis, opinions, insight, all that kind of stuff. So thank you all for listening to another great episode of Blue Shirts Buzz here, and we will catch you guys on the next one.